The invasion of Iraq 2003. Shock and awe explained. At exactly 21 o'clock local time on March 19, 2003, the skies over Baghdad ignited with the fire of an unprecedented military assault. The United States launched Operation Iraqi Freedom, initiating a military strategy known as shock and awe. The doctrine was simple in theory but terrifying in execution. Achieve absolute dominance over Iraq's military within the first hours of combat, using overwhelming firepower, precision strikes, and psychological warfare to paralyze the enemy's will to fight. The skies, roads, and rivers of Iraq would soon become a stage for a display of raw, unrelenting power. From the first moment, the air was filled with the thunder of engines, the shriek of missiles, and the deep rumble of bombs detonating. The plan was not merely to destroy Iraq's military, but to shock the country into submission. Every strike was calculated, every weapon deployed with exacting precision. It was a war of technology, firepower, and terror. The scale of the initial assault. Within the first 24 hours, the US-led coalition unleashed an extraordinary barrage of attacks. 1,700 air sorties cut through the night skies, delivering destruction across Baghdad and key military installations. Over 500 Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched from naval vessels and submarines stationed hundreds of miles from the capital. Each missile carried warheads designed to obliterate hardened bunkers and command centers. Simultaneously, B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, gliding silently through radar-saturated skies, released precision-guided bombs weighing between 2,000 and 5,000 pounds each, slicing through concrete, steel, and asphalt with surgical accuracy. The F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighters, invisible to most radar systems, darted in and out of Iraqi airspace, dropping ordnance with terrifying precision. Explosions erupted in rapid succession, sending shockwaves that shattered glass, crumbled walls, and ignited fires visible from miles away. Every airstrike, every detonation, was part of a psychological assault aimed at demonstrating that no Iraqi command, no matter how fortified, could withstand the might of US technology and strategy. Weapons of shock and awe. The invasion showcased a dazzling array of modern weaponry, each chosen for its ability to overwhelm and terrorize. The B-2 Spirit bombers, with a wingspan of 52 meters, could carry up to 40,000 pounds of bombs, delivering payloads deep into enemy territory without warning. Each bomb was fitted with precision guidance systems that allowed it to strike targets with a margin of error smaller than a city block. Tomahawk cruise missiles, traveling at subsonic speeds of around 880 kilometers per hour, could follow terrain contours and evade radar for hundreds of kilometers, reaching Baghdad from ships stationed in the Persian Gulf. Each missile carried a 1,000-pound high-explosive warhead, capable of flattening reinforced buildings and disintegrating bunkers. The collective thunder of hundreds of such missiles created a terrifying orchestration of destruction, each explosion punctuated by fireballs, mushroom clouds, and shockwaves that rolled across the city. While the GBU-43/B massive ordnance air blast, famously known as the mother of all bombs, was not deployed in Iraq, its existence epitomized the doctrine of shock and awe. At 21,000 pounds, its explosive yield could annihilate an entire military complex, demonstrating the scale of the U.S. military's capacity for precision destruction. Helicopters and attack gunships added a mobile dimension to the assault, strafing convoys and fortified positions with 30mm cannons and Hellfire missiles. Armored M1 Abrams tanks moved in synchronized waves, each firing 120mm depleted uranium shells capable of piercing reinforced bunkers. Naval destroyers launched volleys of Tomahawk missiles while firing 127mm shells at coastal defenses, creating simultaneous shockwaves on land and water. Unmanned aerial vehicles scouted enemy positions, relaying real-time coordinates for air and artillery strikes. The combination of aerial, land, and sea firepower demonstrated a calculated, multi-dimensional approach to overwhelming force, leaving the enemy disoriented, suppressed, and incapable of coordinated resistance. The execution of the campaign. The tactical execution was both meticulous and ruthless, a masterclass in orchestrated destruction. The initial strikes were laser-focused on decapitation targets, Saddam Hussein's palaces, fortified command bunkers, and high-value communication hubs. Each building was mapped with millimeter precision coordinates, ensuring that 500-pound and 2,000-pound bombs hit with surgical accuracy. The intent was clear: sever the head of Iraq's military, leaving the body paralyzed and unable to mount coordinated resistance. Within minutes of the first explosions, radar installations and communication nodes were obliterated, leaving Iraqi units blind, deaf, and isolated. Simultaneously, U.S. forces targeted Iraq's air defense systems with a combination of Tomahawk cruise missiles and F-117 stealth bombers. Patriot missile sites, SA-6 batteries, and radar towers were struck with 1,000-pound warheads, generating massive detonations that shook the surrounding cityscape. Shockwaves toppled reinforced walls, sent debris flying hundreds of meters, and ruptured underground bunkers. The sheer precision of these strikes ensured that Iraqi anti-aircraft units were neutralized before they could mount an effective response, leaving the skies dominated by stealth aircraft and drones. The explosions themselves were a calculated symphony of destruction. Over 2,500 tons of ordnance were delivered in the opening hours alone, ranging from laser-guided bombs piercing hardened concrete to Hellfire missiles disintegrating armored vehicles in seconds. Each blast was choreographed not only to destroy infrastructure, but to paralyze defenders with terror. Buildings crumbled into clouds of dust and fire, while secondary explosions from fuel depots and ammunition caches added unpredictable, chaotic force to the assault. By dawn, Baghdad was a city trembling under continuous, unrelenting bombardment, with fireballs erupting every few seconds across key districts. The psychological component extended far beyond the battlefield. Real-time footage of the bombardments was broadcast to the world, showing precision strikes raining destruction across Baghdad. Civilians and military personnel alike witnessed a city under siege by invisible forces, amplifying panic, confusion, and a sense of inevitability. Troops in forward positions reported seeing entire neighborhoods consumed by infernos, while the sound of distant detonations echoed like rolling thunder, creating a pervasive atmosphere of dread. Air power was complemented by the synchronized advance of ground forces. Armored M1 Abrams tanks, each armed with 120mm smoothbore cannons, rolled in behind airborne infantry units. Attack helicopters, including AH-64 Apaches, unleashed coordinated barrages of Hydra 70 rockets and Hellfire missiles, cutting through Iraqi mechanized units and fortified positions. Artillery units fired 155mm shells, each capable of penetrating multiple layers of concrete and steel, creating simultaneous explosions that reverberated across strategic districts. Every angle of attack was planned, every weapon deployed with mathematical precision to overwhelm defenses from every possible direction. The combination of physical devastation and psychological terror epitomized the doctrine of shock and awe. The Iraqi command structure was paralyzed, city streets were littered with rubble and wreckage, and the population faced the stark realization that modern warfare had evolved beyond the simple clash of armies. It was now a war of precision, overwhelming firepower, and calculated terror. Explosions, firepower, and tactical detail. Explosions rippled across Baghdad in relentless rolling waves. Each warhead detonated with the equivalent yield of several tons of TNT, shattering reinforced steel and concrete, rupturing underground bunkers, and sending debris soaring hundreds of meters into the air. Entire city blocks were leveled, armored vehicles were incinerated within seconds, and massive plumes of black smoke clawed toward the night sky. The reverberating thunder of these repeated blasts echoed for dozens of kilometers, leaving both troops and civilians disoriented, panicked, and vulnerable. Stealth technology amplified the devastation. F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighters executed multiple low-altitude precision runs, each carrying 2,000-pound laser-guided bombs that penetrated reinforced command centers and military bunkers with surgical accuracy. Following in coordinated timing, B-2 Spirit bombers, operating at altitudes exceeding 15,000 meters, unleashed 5,000-pound GDAMs, Joint Direct Attack munitions, that carved through hardened structures, igniting secondary explosions in fuel depots and ammunition storage facilities. Simultaneously, Tomahawk cruise missiles, launched from naval vessels stationed in the Red Sea and Persian Gulf, streaked over hundreds of kilometers at subsonic speeds of 880 kilometers per hour, each carrying 1,000-pound high-explosive warheads that detonated with precision, creating fireballs, mushroom clouds, and cascading shockwaves across the city. The cumulative impact was staggering. Iraqi radar operators, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of simultaneous attacks, struggled to track hundreds of incoming strikes. Anti-aircraft batteries, including SA-2, SA-3, and Patriot missile installations, were neutralized before they could mount any coordinated defense. Roads, bridges, and communication lines were systematically destroyed, severing logistical routes and isolating mechanized and infantry units. Artillery crews found themselves unable to reposition or provide fire support, as 155mm shells and 120mm tank rounds obliterated their emplacements. Every strike, every shell, and every detonation was meticulously timed, choreographed to leave no opportunity for Iraqi forces to regroup or retaliate. This orchestration of destruction was both physical and psychological. The unrelenting rhythm of explosions, the roar of aircraft overhead, and the sight of flaming wreckage across Baghdad instilled a pervasive sense of inevitability. Soldiers and civilians alike experienced the tangible terror of modern warfare, a battlefield where precision, overwhelming firepower, and timing combined to create chaos so complete that resistance became nearly impossible. Each building reduced to rubble, each armored vehicle turned to molten steel, reinforced the message that the attackers controlled not just the sky and ground, but the very perception of the battlefield itself. Civilian consequences and urban devastation. While the operation targeted military installations, the scale of the attacks inevitably affected civilian areas. Hospitals, schools, and residential buildings near strategic sites were damaged or destroyed. According to the Iraq Body Count Project, over 6,600 civilians died in the first phase of the invasion. Cluster munitions and airdropped bombs, designed for anti-armor operations, spread across urban areas, leaving a trail of destruction that made the streets of Baghdad resemble a war zone from a bygone century. The psychological impact on civilians was as profound as the physical destruction. Families fled homes as explosions lit the sky in staccato bursts. Fires raged across neighborhoods, fueled by ruptured fuel lines and collapsing infrastructure. Hospitals were overwhelmed by casualties, and the disruption of water and electricity magnified the suffering. Shock and awe was designed to break the will of the military, but it also sent a chilling message to the civilian population. Resistance or presence in key areas carried enormous risk. Strategic outcomes and operational analysis. The initial operational objectives were achieved with devastating efficiency. Baghdad's defenses were paralyzed within hours. Saddam Hussein's regime was thrown into disarray. The psychological impact was immediate. Iraqi military units became disorganized, and lines of command were disrupted. Coalition forces were able to advance rapidly toward Baghdad, with minimal resistance. However, the longer-term strategic outcomes were more complex. The anticipated collapse of Iraqi resistance did not occur uniformly. Insurgent groups and militia networks adapted, launching ambushes, roadside bomb attacks, and small-scale engagements. While the shock and awe campaign demonstrated the supremacy of U.S. firepower, it did not prevent the emergence of asymmetric warfare. The absence of weapons of mass destruction, which had been a central justification for the invasion, also undermined the strategic narrative. The operation revealed the limits of technological dominance when faced with a population capable of dispersing, hiding, and regrouping under extreme conditions. Legacy and lessons learned. Shock and awe remains one of the most studied examples of modern military strategy. It highlighted the effectiveness of precision-guided munitions, stealth aircraft, and long-range missile strikes in achieving rapid operational objectives. The campaign demonstrated how coordinated, multi-domain attacks, air, sea, and electronic warfare, could paralyze a nation within hours. Yet it also exposed critical lessons about the nature of warfare. Technology and firepower alone cannot guarantee political or social stability. The human element, the resilience of a population, the ability of insurgents to adapt, remains a decisive factor. Furthermore, the humanitarian consequences of rapid, overwhelming force cannot be ignored. Shock and awe achieved its military goals, but at a cost measured in civilian lives, urban destruction, and long-term instability. The invasion of Iraq in 2003 stands as both a testament to the power of modern military technology and a cautionary tale about the limits of that power. The doctrine of shock and awe, while tactically brilliant, demonstrated that the ultimate victory in warfare requires not only bombs and missiles, but careful planning for the aftermath, diplomacy, and the unpredictable resilience of the human element. The skies may have fallen over Baghdad, the buildings may have crumbled, and the echoes of explosions may still linger in history. But the lessons of shock and awe remain alive today. Strategy, precision, and the psychology of warfare proved as lethal as firepower itself. As we've seen, technology can dominate, but human resilience, chaos, and adaptation always leave their mark. If this video into the raw power, meticulous planning, and unstoppable force of the 2003 Iraq invasion gripped your imagination, like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another journey into the hidden mechanics of modern warfare.